Good morning. We're alive today. We're doing well.
Hump day.
Thank goodness for that.
So how you doing on this? Here we are midweek and getting ready. Early voting has gotten underway this week. We were 3 weeks away yesterday from the real voting, and we want people to come out with this. And this has to be a landslide, Brittany. There's no doubt about it.
The red wave has got to be high, right?
It does. It's got to be tsunami type red wave, because the message has to be sent, even though they won't get it on the left. They just double down on stupid, but they at least need to be taught a lesson.
I agree. Well, and I think something that we can talk about, Bill, is what are the reasons people should vote for the more conservative Republican candidate. And one of the things I just saw that came out on the news was that the DOJ, which has been weaponized against conservatives, said that they're recommending 6 months in jail for Steve Bannon.
What?
Yes, that's their recommendation. The
For
DOJ
what?
just came out. Oh, because of the subpoena issue.
Oh.
They were saying that, in Steve Bannon's defense, he's saying, there is executive privilege and it's not mine to waive. So he, so he didn't go as he was subpoenaed because it was executive privilege. Mm-hmm. Therefore, there was no reason for him to show up. And they're getting him for basically a slap on the wrist, and they want to put him away for 6 months, which I think is absolutely ridiculous.
It's pathetic. But that's what we were going. And what's even worse is how corporate America is going along with all this crap. We have conservative organizations that are now having their bank accounts closed by places like Citibank and others.
JP Morgan Chase, Mike Lindell had a bunch of his stuff shut down. Walmart pulled out his stuff from their stores. And Walmart is, I hate to say it, but, conservatives, that's where conservatives shop is Walmart. And so,
in many cases.
Yes. And when they were founded, they were a pretty conservative company. You know how that goes, though, Bill?
I do. Yeah, I grew up with Ted Turner, real conservative guy when he was a younger man, and then I don't know what happened. He got so open-minded his brain fell out. But that's
Jane Fonda.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I'm sure she helped.
If you'd have told me when some years ago that he would marry Jane Fonda, I'd have stuck in a rubber room in a jacket. So just to give you an idea.
I did have someone say to me, well, if I had to be liberal and I had the opportunity to marry Jane Fonda, I probably would do it. I was like, wow. They're like,
really?
Yeah. I had someone say that to me the other day, and I thought, okay.
No, left-wing loon, absolutely. And what gets me is that, Brittany, it's like we can't ever apologize for anything, because it doesn't matter how much you get your knees bloody begging for forgiveness. If we say something that the left doesn't like, it never goes away. But when Jane Fonda was responsible, or there's video of her getting up on an anti-aircraft gun that was shooting down Americans and killing American pilots, and causing others to become prisoners of war or lose limbs or something. And they said, and when you bring that up, people said, well, she's apologized. Well, excuse me. Tell that to the people who spent 7 or 8 years in these Vietnam prison camps, and tell them, well, she's apologized for those 7 years of your life that you lost, and you might have been shortened because of the lack of nutrition that you were given.
That's the thing. Like, an apology doesn't do anything, Bill.
No.
And, something I thought was interesting, and I think we have the video clip of this. You mentioned the banks really taking it to the conservatives. And Kanye West, who now goes by Ye. Yes. Very interesting person. He is an artist. They typically are very interesting people. But, he actually is very intelligent. He, they loved him, 8 years ago when he was singing about, gold diggers and stuff. So
that's right.
It's interesting how they've kind of turned on him. But he's talking about his experience with JP Morgan Chase.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? JP Morgan, I put $140 million into JP Morgan, and they treated me like shit. So if JP Morgan Chase is treating me like that, how they treating the rest of y'all?
That's outrageous, yeah.
And this murder was with Chase accounts.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I am outraged. By the time people they want to calm it down.
Because no matter what, you didn't break no law.
I didn't break a law.
No matter
I didn't
what,
break a law.
the bank shouldn't be a judge or jury on anything that's
but
going on.
But this is it's like a social contract. Candace Owens has a word for it, I'm forgetting it. But it's basically like they told Candace Owens she couldn't hang out with me. You know, I'm.
So that's Kanye West, or Ye, and he also, breaking news this week, is actually going to buy Parler, from what I hear, because he was also canceled off Twitter. So they are definitely censoring him now, and which is interesting because he was married to a Kardashian.
Ah, so he's buying Parler. Elon Musk looks like he's going to get Twitter, and of course the left is having a cow.
They're freaking out. Well, I think they also don't like the fact that Truth Social actually finally got on the Google store. So, there's a lot of changes coming in the social media market. But I think that's how you fight back as a conservative. But, Elon Musk is no conservative.
No, he's not.
Definitely not. There are many things that I like about Elon Musk. There are some things that I definitely am not a fan of. And one of them is his views on transhumanism, which is, combining humans with robotics. I don't like that.
No.
So
not going to work.
No, but I do like his view on free speech. And he, Twitter offered him quite a discount to buy Twitter if he would keep the management in place and keep everyone that has been kicked off, all the conservatives, that would stand, so that he couldn't bring people back. And he said no.
Deal breaker. Good for him.
No, absolutely not. But he would have gotten a significant discount because, let's be honest, what he's paying for Twitter, it is not worth that.
Well, it's not. But hopefully he'll turn it into something. And once again, a great entrepreneur is a great entrepreneur, and they can turn things around in a hurry. So.
Well, and what a visionary, right? Like whatever the case, Steve Jobs, such a visionary. What he gave us has been amazing. However, there's always a flip side to that too, Bill.
Sure.
I think he wanted people to have knowledge and power, and then social media has really impacted our young people today, Bill.
I think too much to a degree, and we ought to be pulling all of the electronic stuff out of our schools.
Oh, absolutely. I think that kids are not learning what they need to learn. And, I saw a video, and it was just this girl, they're just so obsessed with themselves.
Yeah.
And it's like, if people make you feel uncomfortable, you just say, and she just is basically saying nothing in this video. And it goes on for a minute. And I'm just like, what is this? I'm just I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone sometimes.
Well, you are.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah, a parallel universe, which is something that, in fact, Twilight Zone had some episodes on parallel universes. And we've been warned about this robotics crossover for decades. I can remember there was a popular TV series when I was a kid called Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, and they uncovered a race of people that apparently were here before we were. Something happened, and they put themselves in these tubes to preserve themselves.
Okay.
And they brought one of them back, and this guy all of a sudden wants to get rid of the humans and take over. And there's also been series of that once the robots, and that's the worry we have about AI. All these robots get together and say, "We're taking over. You can't turn us." There was one experiment. Didn't they have to cancel it? They had to shut it down before it went too far. But the two machines started talking to each other and developed their own language.
Oh yes, and
they wouldn't. And they, when the humans asked them, "What are you talking about?" "None of your business."
Yeah. And
this is scary.
It is very scary. And you can now manipulate things. Like someone can take our voices and, they just did this with Joe Rogan and Steve Jobs. And they did a whole interview. Steve Jobs has been dead for a long time.
Yeah, he has.
And so, but the interview was great. Back and forth, it was crazy how real it sounded.
They did a Jerry Seinfeld. They did one with Jerry Seinfeld. And he did the jokes. The jokes were funny, but it didn't quite have the timing that you need for a good joke. Because in many cases, the timing of a joke is getting to the punchline is really the real spirit of making it from something like ha ha to just guffaw, just falling out hysterics. And you couldn't tell that was not him. And there was that they've had there's been some Herschel Walker ads I've seen that, honest to God, I think is AI. He's saying stuff. I know I don't. Where did they get the video in the first place? Why haven't we seen this before?
Before he started running for election, it's weird how stuff just appears, isn't it?
It's just it's amazing what they can do. So we have a lot to get to worry about, and getting rid of all this electronic stuff in the classroom is among them. I mean, kids shouldn't be on their phones, and we built the greatest country in the world long before anybody had access to cell phones or laptops or anything else. And for God's sakes, don't get this stuff for your kids.
Well, I was talking to a friend that works in construction, and, it was interesting because we were comparing, I call them the laptop class, but men that have never done actual work with their hands, and just how different their view of the world is. And it was just a really interesting conversation, because I do think that doing work with your hands and building things, and that's how men grew up, right?
Well, why? Yeah. What about the workforce itself?
Yeah.
My family, right after we go to have breakfast right after church every Sunday morning, and we were at Cracker Barrel on Sunday. And we usually, when you go to Cracker Barrel, you're ready for at least a half an hour wait. You're lucky if you're on a half hour wait.
Right.
So we were there almost an hour before they finally called us, and we walked in, and 30 to 40% of the tables are empty.
They don't have staff.
They don't have enough staff. I think 2 people were working in the kitchen. I mean,
people need to get back to work.
Yeah, because let's do something with these illegal aliens. Let's as long as they're going to be here, hey, we got a job for you.
The problem is they can't communicate, Bill. We have not thought this out. They
Sign them up for Babbel.
Well, they cannot thrive here in the current conditions. It's just not possible. Americans need to get off their butts.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, we need to start working. People need to start having a purpose, Bill.
I don't care if you're getting that government check. For God's sakes, get back on. There's dignity to work.
Yes.
When I've got a week, I used to get 2 weeks vacation.
How'd that work out for you?
I hated it. After a week, I'm ready to get back to work.
Yep. It's too much.
Unless we're on some fabulous trip somewhere, some sabbatical, going around on around the world cruise.
Yeah.
Don't have time for one of those. But I was like, God, what am I sitting around for? I need something to do. And of course, in this business, things are happening all the time. So you're champing at the bit to get back on the air. Meanwhile, we're champing at the bit to get our next segment going as well. Coming up,
we're going to be looking at some of the craziness going on with some activists.
Oh, crazy activists.
Weird, right?
Circle this date on your calendar.
Yeah. We'll be back.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. We choose to go to the moon. I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you. And the people. You and I know and do not believe that life is so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery.
Today we deliver for the people of Florida yet again.
You saved our jobs.
And kept us going.
They tried to shut us down.
But you saved our business. $1,000 bonuses.
You had our backs.
And honored our service.
You led by facts, not fear.
And you let us decide.
You let me go to school.
You gave me a voice.
You put us first.
And didn't let them keep us apart.
You let us learn.
You let us compete.
All of us.
You protected our right to worship together in person.
And you raised our pay.
You protected our waters.
And kept Florida beautiful.
When they attacked you, you didn't cave. You stood strong for Florida.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor.
Gracias, Gobernador DeSantis.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor DeSantis.
As your governor, I promise you, whatever challenges come our way, I will always lead the California way.
You are literally insane.
I say that's the California way.
You guys are really awesome. Thank you so much.
Based on compassion,
I mean, if we're going to be realistic, they pay you to be homeless here.
common sense. Clean and sober is one of the biggest damn mistakes this country's ever made. We all need to self-medicate periodically. Telling the truth. Telling the truth. Treasuring our diversity.
Success to hit my...
Telling the truth. Following science. Protecting our planet.
Love like yours will surely come my way. Hey, hey, hey.
Gavin Newsom. Courage through crisis.
The last 3 years, Georgia's been tested in ways we could never imagine. And it fell to Governor Brian Kemp to successfully lead us during these troubling times. Georgia is still first in the nation for business. Our unemployment rate is the lowest in state history. Today, people come to Georgia to succeed, start a business, raise a family. Kemp has always backed the blue, stopping the radical left from defunding local police. He passed a tough new election integrity bill that, as the governor likes to say, made it easy to vote and hard to cheat. And while some during COVID-19 shut down their economy, Kemp kept our schools and businesses open while keeping Georgians safe. A long list of accomplishments. Fighting human trafficking, increasing teacher pay, greater access to quality health care. A governor who works for Georgians. All of us. Governor Brian Kemp.
Welcome back.
This is Get Real America. I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
And we're getting real, down to the nitty-gritty, give you the iceberg, not just the tip.
Yeah, and we need to jump into these activists doing crazy stuff these days, Bill. It seems like it all of a sudden just started back up. Like, what? Did an influx of Soros money come in and they decided that they needed to pay these people to be crazy, or what happened?
There was a movie out years ago. I highly recommend it to you if you want to look it up on Netflix or wherever you get your movies these days. But it's called Satan Never Sleeps with Bill Holden. And that is the case because these people are relentless. They will never go away. They're 24/7, 365 of trying to destroy America and the world for that matter. And this happened just recently with two protesters who decided they were going to deface one of the most famous pieces of art on the planet just because they don't like oil.
So bizarre. I think we have that clip here.
Security.
Now, what we're doing here is putting crazy glue on their hands.
Yeah. So weird, Bill. And these are young people that are doing this, and I understand.
Do we have any more of that?
Nope, that was it.
Oh.
That was it. There was also a guy that the same orange. I don't know if that's their color. I'm not really sure, but he actually damaged an Aston Martin building in the UK as well. So I mean, like I said, it seems to ripple as soon as this starts to happen.
I don't know where security was, but this is Van Gogh. That was Van Gogh's painting of the flowers.
Yes, the sunflowers, and luckily they were unsuccessful because there is glass over their paintings there at the museum. So while it was a big mess for them to clean up, and gluing yourself to the wall, I'm not really sure. Like, what's the thought process there?
I'd have left them there, but they were protesting oil. And of course, I guess also they picked that because it's an oil painting.
I guess I was like, what does that have to do with Van Gogh?
Yeah. Why, if you so care about the planet, why would you just try to destroy a piece of art that depicts the beauty of the planet? But I'd have left them. I said, it's Halloween. We could have this painting, and we could have the two skeletons sitting there as well, real dead skeletons. And these idiots are saying, and of course the irony always is, because these people are that stupid, probably most of the clothes that they were wearing were made of oil.
You're probably right, Bill. I don't think people understand the full scope of everything. They just hear these talking points, and I honestly think most people that are activists are paid to do things. I don't think that they do it on their own. So I think that they probably were paid to do this and create a scene. But I can't believe how young these people are too. It's just like they're young and they're radicalized against oil. Like, that's a weird thing to hate.
Well, they're that stupid. They think that somehow that oil is bad and evil and is destroying the planet. It's been around for a long time. Ain't destroying nothing, but it's vital. It's something that has been that God gave us. Nothing that we have come up with has the power and energy contained in petroleum. You're not getting the power out of batteries for your car. For those of you who have been dumb enough to buy an electric car, and you don't have the joules in ethanol when they've diluted ethanol. You have to get more ethanol in your tank than if you just had straight gasoline without it. It does not have the joules that gives you enough energy to get the full benefits of a full tank. And they keep manipulating this stuff, but oil is a vital necessity. It is made by the earth. It's not old dinosaurs. We have the geologists discovered a long time ago that there couldn't have been that many dinosaurs, and oil wells that were capped because they said they had run dry 20, 30 years ago, they've gone back and looked, and they're full again. Now, we haven't had dinosaurs in the last 30 years transition.
Right. Maybe. We don't know.
Dinosaurs.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
It could be, Bill. The funny thing about that, too, is I saw a car that was in Nebraska with California plates on it. It was a Tesla. And they had a rack on the back of it with a generator.
A generator.
I was like, wow.
We've seen those great shots of the generator powering the device that charged the car.
It's so weird. So bizarre to me that it doesn't make sense.
And around the rest of the world, like in China, because we're getting all these, once again, solar panels don't do the job that a nuclear power plant does, because nuclear power doesn't need the sun to be up. Windmills can't do the job because a nuclear power plant doesn't need the wind to blow. But they don't produce the kilowatt hours. I think for natural gas per kilowatt hour is something. Let's say it's 40 cents. Okay, maybe at the most.
Okay, 40 cents. Got it.
If you, or maybe it's a lot. I'm going to go a lot lower. I'm going to say like 15 cents.
Oh, 15.
Whereas kilowatt hour produced by a solar panel or a windmill is like 35 to 40 cents.
Okay.
So
doesn't make sense to me.
Once again, you're not getting the same. You have to have a lot more, which means you have to use a lot more land that we could use to, I don't know, plant crops.
Farm, yes.
Yeah, farmland, and you have all these windmills. They've got these wind farms out in the ocean now that are screwing up the spawning lanes of some major fishes in the environment. So where are the environmentalists? Where's the Arbor Foundation? Where's the ornithological people worried about all the birds and the bats that are getting killed by these windmills?
And now the fish.
And you know what's the most fun? As a friend of mine was driving through Oklahoma just recently, and he comes upon these one of these wind farms, and none of the blades are turning. And he was wondering why. He did some research. Turns out the wind had gotten too strong. Those things don't work if the wind speed gets more than 40 miles an hour.
They don't sound very productive, Bill.
Yeah. And so, but, there's another little trick that's really cute about windmills. When it gets cold and moisture forms on these blades, and these blades are enormous. Mm-hmm. They're about they're 100 feet or more in many cases. And the ice starts forming on these blades. When the ice starts to melt, they throw chunks, 60, 70-pound chunks of ice off of these blades. If you get hit with a 60-pound chunk of ice,
probably not going to be good.
I hope that you have your will made out, because you ain't getting back. Or even if it hits your car or something of that nature, we've got some horror stories on that. There was another horror story of a lady that was so pleased up in Maine a few years ago because they just finished a wind farm. She was excited. They were putting that thing online. She was going to have wind power. This is green energy. My God, we're not going to be destroying the planet, getting that evil, dirty oil out of the ground anymore. And she's trying to go to sleep that night, and she hears this thump, thump, thump. She's like, what the heck is that?
Your windmill.
Yeah, there's that green energy for you.
Very
loud.
How you
enjoying it?
Yeah. I'm sure, But again, with these activists, they're now dumping out dairy products. Milk is like $5 a gallon plus, depending on where you live.
Going into grocery stores and dumping out milk because, and they say they're trying to get rid of cows for a long time. Once again, where are the animal rights activists on getting rid of the cows? And they keep telling us about this cow flatulence. Somebody told me, and I'm no expert on cows, that cows don't actually pass gas.
No, well, and cows are actually, they're wonderful. I grew up with a lot of cattle in Utah, and they're wonderful. Like, feeding a baby cow with a bottle is just priceless. So, I don't understand why we have a war against cows. They're wonderful. And said, cattle farm.
Because they somehow they decided you shouldn't eat meat, and so and of course we get the beef from the cattle. So you shouldn't eat meat. If God didn't want us to eat meat, He'd have given us different kind of teeth.
I highly disagree with all of these people because I am a steak and potatoes kind of gal, and I'm never giving it up. I'm sorry, Bill Gates, it's not happening.
And you remember when God told the people, you make a sacrifice with the lamb, mutton, whatever. Yeah, there you go. All right.
Right after this, we will be right back with a word from our sponsors.
Let me tell you guys something. Every time I go out to speak, everybody want a sound bite. I'm going to give you a sound bite really quick. I'm sick and tired of people putting this country down. They want to ask me why I'm running. Let's be real. I'm sick and tired. You look at the economy, you look at the gas prices. You can't buy a grocery now. It's time for us to wake up. It's time for me to get out and fight. Because I'm going to tell you, I love to win. I said, put me in the game, coach. I'm ready to play. If you ever seen me play, I can play. Have you ever seen me fight, I can fight. No matter how hard they come, how hard I can fight. I'm sick and tired of this. Tell your friends to get out and vote. I'm not here to be a politician. I'm here to be a warrior. Protect this country, protect our citizens, and protect our kids. No weapon formed against me shall ever prosper. Boom! That's it, baby!
I do absolutely agree that it's racist. It is a redux of Jim Crow in a suit and tie.
America has a long history of systemic racism.
You ain't black.
America has a pre-existing condition. It's called racism.
Senator Warnock believes America is a bad country full of racist people. I believe we're a great country full of generous people. Warnock wants to divide us. I want to bring us together. I'm Herschel Walker. I approve this message.
than anything else? You realize that? The point is, we ask so much of you. So much of you. I've not...
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
And a wonderful Wednesday here, a hump day. Glad to have you aboard. And did you notice that once again, I'm always amused at the difference in the size of the crowd with Joe Biden, as Fetterman calls him, good old Joe Biden, and the Trump crowd. And the media still tries to tell you that really is no indication of his popularity.
Yeah, I will beg to differ.
I would too. I will too.
I mean, so the funny thing is Jill Biden, got booed by the Eagles this weekend. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you heard what else they were chanting in the background, but it was definitely an FJB type of weekend at the Eagles Stadium. And people, I don't think I've seen any movement against a president like we see here from the people. From the media for Trump, yes, but the people, absolutely not.
It's interesting that we're hearing from the young people from colleges. You hear it at college football games.
Yep.
And the kids yelling it, especially when you see when somebody like Tommy Lahren tries to speak at the University of New Mexico and the left-wing loons show up. I want to know when we're going to start fighting back. And when we had those awful riots in the summer of 2020, I was wondering, why in the world aren't they bringing out? Remember, once upon a time, to break up the riots, the fire department would come out with water cannons. I would say I would have come out with the water cannons filled with this indelible red ink that won't wash off for weeks, and start hitting the crowd with those. I mean, you don't have to you don't have to, hit them with batons. You don't have to fire shots into the air. Just hit them with these water cannons, which can knock you off your feet and knock you about a half a block, and fill it with this indelible red ink, so they will know who the protesters are for weeks to come.
Well, I also think, Bill, I lived in Salt Lake at the time of 2020, and we surprisingly in Salt Lake City, Utah, we did have riots. They flipped over a cop car. They lit some stuff on fire. I was downtown with some friends, and our governor said, we're not doing this. And the mayor of Salt Lake City was like, no, you're not going to send in the National Guard. And he's like, oh, yes, I am. Mm-hmm. So he basically trumped the mayor of Salt Lake City.
Good.
And if he hadn't have done that, it would have went on and on. But because he did that, it was over within an hour.
That's what you do. You, as Barney once said, Andy Griffith, nip it in the bud, nip it.
Yeah, and we have to have law and order in this country. And if we're not going to enforce the laws, why do we have them?
Mm-hmm.
And I think once you start lighting other people's property on fire, when you start endangering other people's lives with bricks and, frozen water bottles and things like that, and you're
lethal
punching
weapons.
Yeah, and you're punching people, and Kyle Rittenhouse comes to mind, and he actually is launching a YouTube channel that just came out.
Good for him.
This week. It's all focused on Second Amendment. Goodness, I cannot talk on this Wednesday, but kind of exciting.
Well, and what ticks me off was he was trying to enroll. I think he wanted to go to Arizona State. Was it Arizona State?
Yep, it was.
And there were protests of people that don't let him in or whatever, which is just garbage. But and that seems to be juxtaposed. And again, it's this small group that gets all this, the squeaky wheel that gets the oil, as the old saying goes. Oh, I'm sorry, that evil oil stuff. But instead, we're hearing a lot of the FJB stuff coming out at the football games. So probably
who watches football? Who watches football, Bill?
Yeah. I don't know, conservatives for the most part, or
people that are masculine, enjoy being male.
Yeah.
Women that believe in the male dynamic don't really have a lot to say about male toxicity or masculine toxicity. So I think that's why you see such a difference, especially when you look at the football games and then you look at actually what happens on campuses. the people that have nothing better to do and probably are getting an A in a class for, harassing these people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I've kind of concluded.
And coming out with a degree in 12th century French art or something, which is great for getting you a job.
Well, also I think it's more of like they're doing weird arts degrees. Like there are different types of arts degrees that are just, they're nonsense. And now you have this diversity thing that's opening up, and those degrees are becoming very popular, and those are indoctrination. That's, teaching people to hate people of other races and, maybe just white people.
Yeah.
I don't know. But white people aren't the only ones being discriminated against. I think, the Chinese, especially when it comes to college admissions.
Yeah, the Asian Americans.
Yeah, I mean, and it all comes down to culture, because when you look at Asian American parents are very strict, and they have very high expectations of their children.
They do.
I've known a few of them, and I can't believe what they can get accomplished in a day. They're honor students, plus they also work, plus they also are involved in like mathletes and debate clubs, and it's like, how do you do it all? And their parents just have that expectation. So something that I really like about Roger Moss locally is his thing is excellence. So he's like, if you don't expect excellence, you will not get excellence. So you cannot provide a mediocre education and just say, it's the kids that really can't do it. You really have to provide a great education and expect people to excel.
Roger Moss, in case you don't know, a pillar of this community, and he has, over the years, established private schools, very, very excellent private schools. He is a wonderful educator, and he has these expectations of the kids. You expect, there was a ad some years ago for about girls going into different things, and the lady at the end said, expect the best from a girl. That's probably what you'll get. Mm-hmm. Well, Roger started a children's choir here, Savannah Children's Choir, and to get in this choir, of course you had to audition, you had to have a good voice, but you also had to have good grades. And he established this children's choir here and got mostly inner city urban kids, mostly kids of color, kids who had never heard, and he teaching them songs. Brittany, these kids had never heard a melody before. They've grown up with this rap music and all this other crap, and they've never heard melodies and harmonies, and he got them working. They never heard Mary Had a Little Lamb. Wow. As a kid. They didn't know we had a beach. Let me repeat that. They didn't know we had a beach. So they hadn't been out of their neighborhoods much. And he turned them into international champions within a few years. They were going off, they were singing at Notre Dame. They were singing in competitions in Vienna and Scotland and winning. And that's what you can do when you expect the best, and he doesn't use an excuse of it, well, you're poor, or you came from here, or you've never had anything except, McDonald's cheeseburgers for lunch. None of that mattered. He expected the best, and he got it.
Well, and what a life-changing experience for children that have never really been out of their neighborhoods and now are able to go internationally and also experience just a different version of American culture, too. Mm-hmm. I think that's wonderful. And like I said, I'm really excited for him to take over as president in January. Yeah, so that's very exciting.
School Board. I wish he was taking over it. I thought they would take over, as soon as school started, but apparently they've got this
It's
January
a weird.
thing.
It
really is.
Especially because you vote in the primary and that's the final. You don't vote actually in the midterm election for school board, but in other states they do. So it's kind of a weird thing we have going on in Georgia.
It's strange. It's something that needs to be corrected.
Yes, I agree.
Because Roger ought to be there now.
I agree.
Because he's going to be taking over halfway through this particular school year.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
It makes no sense. Why wouldn't they have it run? I'm a member of the Kiwanis Club, and we all have different fiscal year, what they call the fiscal year. Mm-hmm. Our fiscal year runs September or October 1st to September 30th. Mm-hmm. So we could do the same thing with school board. You have a fiscal year for the school board and not by the calendar year.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it being a final. Like it just, during the primary, it's the final. So you don't get the second opportunity to vote.
Yeah, I agree.
But it is nonpartisan, so I don't know. I'm still rolling that around, Bill. I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah, it might be nonpartisan, but they certainly don't vote that way as a general rule.
Whew, they do not. They do. I mean, you can definitely see where they stand on things, Bill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you sure can. It's amazing also where people stand on things, Brittany. That there was an article, there was a story that came out over this past weekend that Donald Trump is an anti-Semite. Did you hear about this? Donald Trump is anti-Semitic. So because and how many times have we heard this?
Well, he's also a racist, and I'm sure that there's a list of things that they have going on with Donald Trump.
Why is he anti-Semitic? Because he said that Israel, he said the Jews in America need to stand up for Israel, and they need to stand up for America. And all of a sudden, this is Now, this is a guy, of course, whose son-in-law is Jewish, which means the grandkids also are Jewish.
Well, and his daughter is Jewish now too.
Yeah.
So I mean.
So yeah, she's become Jewish, and when I was in Israel, I did my radio show from Israel for a week.
That's so cool.
Back in 2004, and when George Bush was running for re-election at the time. Now I was familiar with American Jews who were very left-wing, mostly probably 90% Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I don't know where these people.
Just so weird, but.
Yeah, I said where these people's heads are. So I was expecting that same thing in Israel. I get there, and I thought maybe I'd be walking on eggs a little bit or something. But they were talking about the election, and we'd be at dinner with these top Jewish leaders, and they'd say, "Boy, we sure do hope George Bush gets reelected." I was like, "Excuse me, it's almost like I'd lost my hearing, huh?" Do what? The editor of the Journal of the Jerusalem Post threw up his hands and said, "Dear God, let George Bush be reelected." And I was like, "Whoa, you need to talk to your American counterparts." Man, the different and what did Benjamin Netanyahu say when Donald Trump was in office? The biggest friend that Israel ever had, the most supportive president Israel ever had. Who was saying, how many presidents said they were going to move the American U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem?
They've been saying it since the 90s.
Yeah. And who did it?
Donald Trump.
And did it start World War III as the lamestream media told you it was going to?
It sure did not.
Not quite. But who's trying to start World War III now? We'll talk about that when we come back, among other things, next here on Get Real America.
Wasteful Washington spending is killing us with inflation and sky-high prices on groceries and gas. Senator Raphael Warnock voted to allow hundreds of millions of dollars of COVID relief funds to be squandered on a luxury resort in Florida, a New Jersey soccer stadium, a ski area in Iowa. Tell Senator Warnock to start voting against reckless spending to stop inflation. Georgia families need cheaper gas and food, not frivolous luxuries in other states.
People told me politics is dirty. They're right. My opponents launched a dirty attack ad. They dug up an old video and took it out of context. My opponents think they're hurting me, but I'm glad they did this ad because it gives me an opportunity to end the stigma around mental health. Here's the truth. My ex-wife Cindy and I are good friends, along with her husband and my wife. And I am grateful for all the support Cindy gave me during the hardest time of my life. I came forward back then in an effort to save lives and to help people who were struggling. We need to end the stigma around mental health. Let me say this to anyone watching, all the veterans and people who are suffering. Your life has value. There is hope, and you're not alone. I would rather listen to a friend talk about his struggles than to go to their funeral. That's why I wrote my book about my life. But my opponents, they don't care about the truth. The fact is, Senator Warnock can't talk about his accomplishments. He's failed Georgia, so he and his friends will lie and deceive. We're going to fight back with the truth, but I need your help. I'm asking everyone to go to teamherschel.com and help me fight back with the truth. God bless. Hi, this is Herschel Walker. I want to endorse Bruce Thompson as our new labor commission because he's going to do the best job you've ever seen for the great state of Georgia.
Listen, I'm standing here with the great Herschel Walker. We all know what's happened in our U.S. Senate. It's time for a change, and I 100% endorse Herschel Walker to represent Georgia and the United States as we take back our country for the people of Georgia and for the United States.
God bless.
Welcome back.
Yeah, heading down the home stretch here on this Wednesday morn.
Always a good time, yeah. Always a good time on a Wednesday. And, you know, we were just talking about some of the things that they like to call Donald Trump, which is always fun.
Yeah.
But switching gears a little bit, you know, it's interesting. There's a lot of people, and you and I have talked about this multiple times. It's interesting the people that have chosen not to debate. Like, why wouldn't you want the voters to hear your platform, Bill?
Mm-hmm. They kept trying to accuse Herschel Walker of that. You know, he didn't. They're making a big deal out of the fact he didn't show up for the Atlanta Press Club. But he knew what was going to happen with the Atlanta Press Club. So he told them months ago he wasn't going to go to that one. But he finally, Warnock guy.
Raphael.
Yeah, Raphael, him. It's going to be, it's tough. But he was accusing Walker of not wanting to debate him.
And they just debated on Friday.
And then Walker called his bluff. And suddenly there was question of whether or not Warnock was going to accept the debate.
Which is hilarious because it was in his hometown.
Yeah.
So there was really no excuse for him not to be here. Yeah, he's here a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He's already here a lot, so it was probably convenient for him.
So Herschel said, I want to have it in Savannah, in your hometown, and I want it on television. I want it statewide, and it was. And Herschel did great. And Warnock disappeared from the face of the planet until he resurfaced
on Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah, because there was supposed to be the post-debate interviews and analysis from the various members of the media. Not us, because we weren't
invited. We were uninvited.
Yeah, that's right. So the Warnock left afterward because they said we're going to have interviews with the candidates. They had an interview with Herschel.
They had a hard time finding.
Nowhere to be found.
They tried to find him. He was not there.
Yeah.
I mean, Herschel even had a shirt for him. So.
Yes.
Talked about that earlier this week.
That was fantastic. We were at the rally on Saturday, and Herschel got off of his bus, and he had this big, football jersey that had the number 96 on it. And on one side it had Warnock, and on the other side it had Biden, and the 96 represented.
How the percentage of times that Warnock votes with Biden, which is 96% of the time.
And he said that ain't in touch with Georgia.
No, it's not. And Katie Hobbs, I don't know if you've heard of her, Bill. She's the current Secretary of State of Arizona, and she is running for governor against Miss Kari Lake, who I think is just phenomenal.
She is.
She is something else. So, Katie is explaining here why she can't debate, or why she won't debate Kari Lake.
Yeah, let's see.
Not going to look at their ballot and
well,
say,
she just
damn
came
it,
and
Katie
sat down.
Hobbs didn't debate her opponent.
She just came and sat down with me and answered my questions for a lot of minutes.
Yeah.
A lot of Democrats are questioning your decision, and they're saying, it's the wrong decision. President Biden's former 2020 co-chair said, I would debate and I would want the people of Arizona to know what my platform is. If you think she's as dangerous as you're saying to democracy, is it your responsibility as a candidate who wants to run Arizona to show and explain who their alternative is?
That is exactly what I'm doing right now. And there is a lot more ability to have a conversation with you without her interruptions and shouting to do that.
Is this the new Communist News Network that they're actually going to ask a fair question every once in a while?
Well, they are being sued by Donald Trump right now, and I think that has them trying to behave a little bit better, just saying.
Bless their hearts.
Yes, well, when you get slapped with a lawsuit and CNN's not been great with ratings, turns out. So they're losing some money. I believe they lost, was it $3 million on the, what was it, CNN Live, or what did they call it? I don't even...
yeah, that was, it was a lot more than that.
Oh, was it more than 3?
Oh, it was multi-millions of dollars on this. They thought that CNN was so good that you'd actually pay for it. Despite the fact that their ratings were dropping like a safe in free fall.
Yeah, they thought you would want to see Anderson Cooper make bread or something.
Yes, and that's when they hired Chris Wallace away from Fox, and to be on this new platform that they were having that you'd have to pay for, and consequently, nobody paid for it. It lasted, I think, was it 3 days? I think it was
up for 27 days.
Yeah. Okay. It was about just about the length of a Lindsay Lohan prison sentence.
There you go.
So
there you go. So CNN, they're covering this. They did speak with Carrie Lake. Carrie Lake was really great. She answered their questions. When you have a good platform, it's not hard, Bill.
Mm-hmm. And also that Senate race in Arizona. Isn't it interesting, because we've been talking about Georgia being the epicenter of the Senate universe, that this one seat was going to change. Now we're looking at many seats that could change. It looks like Dr. Oz has closed the gap considerably now that people see the real John Feder woman. Please, in Pennsylvania, if you try to send this guy to Washington, please, a pox on both your houses.
Well, he's basically a cyborg when you think about it. He cannot function without a computer.
Yeah.
This is not people we should be sending to debate policy on the floor of the Senate.
He wouldn't understand it.
No, it's not good.
Yeah, but it looks like J.D. Vance.
He's wonderful.
And it looks like he could take a Senate seat. Laxalt in Nevada.
Yep.
Looks like he could take a Senate seat. And who's the guy running against Kelly in Arizona?
Blake Masters.
Yes. He mopped the floor with Mike Kelly. I mean, he took him to the cleaners in that debate. And Kelly had no answers about why aren't you protecting our border? Why are you voting with the president? Why aren't you doing this, that, or the other? And Kelly had nothing.
I mean, how can you defend what you've done? You voted with Biden. You're not doing anything about the border. You're not even negotiating at this point. So, how have you supported Arizonians? Especially, being a border state, their border is not good, and it impacts people's lives.
Of course.
And
it's been awful.
Yeah. And if you have bad policy, how do you defend that, Bill? I'm surprised he even debated him, because, I'm sure it was a
surprising.
bloodbath. With Blake Masters.
You have to wonder, because there's a certain, I understand that questions and different things can come up in a debate that you didn't anticipate, but you can anticipate about 90% of the questions, what they are going to ask. As I mentioned yesterday, I was extremely pleased at how pointed some of the questions were at our debate with Warnock and Walker.
I thought that the media actually did a fairly decent job of asking tough questions to both. The one thing that I was really surprised about was the news that had come out earlier in the week about Warnock's church. Mm-hmm. He was not prepared to answer those questions, and he really just, he didn't.
And the only question that neither of them actually answered was, what would we do if Putin used nuclear weapons in Ukraine? They did not answer that question, but at least Herschel said, one of the things we do need is a strong military. I know that one of the reasons probably, Brittany, that the Russians are not doing as well in Ukraine as Putin thought they were going to do is because they're not in touch with their pronouns or their white rage. So our military is, brother, we're fully vaccinated, which means half of them could die or something, and the other half will at least know their pronouns and will be in touch with their white rage.
I'm sure they'll be discussing that on the battlefield.
Yes. General Milli Vanilli, our wonderful chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, I think he's looking in his sock drawer for his white rage, trying to understand it. and I hope that he gets in touch with it soon. And frankly, if he had made those statements, if I were president when he made these statements about how he was trying to understand his white rage, I'd have busted him so low he'd had to salute civilians. But that's another story.
We're not focusing on the right things, and I think that that's where Herschel did do a great job of saying, we have to be energy independent because it's peace through strength.
Think of what we could be doing right now if we were energy independent. If we started, of course, my answer to that would have been, first of all, I said, we would get with our NATO allies and everybody else and completely isolate Russia. Completely. Stop their oil supplies and everything else. Stop their pipeline, because we know the environmentalists might want to, think that's awful. So stop their pipeline and freeze all their assets, freeze bank accounts, like they're doing to conservatives over here, and turn on the spigot full speed so that we could not only have our own oil here, which would bring down prices enormously, which would take care of most of the inflation, and we could be selling it to our allies who have been cut off, who may be freezing to death this winter.
Yeah, and did you know, Bill, that for every 1% of unemployment, 40,000 people will die? Did you know that? I can't imagine what it's going to do. Yeah.
Well,
so
thank you for informing me on that.
Yeah, so things are going to get a little ugly, and we could be doing a lot better if we oil is a huge answer, and I know people don't like to hear that, but
sorry,
that's what we have for you on a Wednesday. Do your research.
We do. Absolutely, yeah. You see this little highlighter I got? Made out of oil.
Everything's made out of oil.
Sure enough. See this laptop thingy? Made out of oil. So that's it for us.
So
at
check
least until tomorrow.
Yes. So check us out on YouTube, Vimeo, GRAnewsmedia.com. Check us out on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you guys tomorrow.